Hey, it's Jordan with TYT Politics. Apologies from my not well lit apartment, but my light is out. I will be getting it changed today, but this is too important to wait. I'm here with Anthony Diggs. You're a veteran. You're the CEO of Veteran Stand, which is the group that kind of rallied to bring a whole lot of veterans to Standing Rock. I know there was issues with that, which we'll get into later, but you became CEO in June. And you and I were going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff, and then this news broke yesterday that Energy Transfer Partners, which is the parent company of Dakota Access Pipeline, Rover Pipeline, Trans-Pecos Pipeline, the list is too long. Every infrastructure project you could think of, they are now suing Greenpeace and other environmental groups for being, quote, eco-terrorists and all that. I did a video on it yesterday. Everybody knows my thoughts. What's your initial thoughts to this?
It makes sense, following the narrative that's come out of the private security firms, the local, state, federal law enforcement agencies who were out there at the time. When I got detained and ticketed on 1806, the state trooper there said, "You guys are eco-terrorists," told me that explicitly. I let him know, I'm a veteran of the United States Marine Corps, war on terror, like it's a ridiculous correlation to be making. And it's ridiculous.
It seems to me, obviously it's not reported this way by Reuters or anyone else reporting it, which, by the way, isn't many people. It's not on CNN, it's not on MSNBC, New York Times. Obviously, they're not touching this stuff. But I read it, and it just seems like a blatant, just unfettered greed. You people cost us millions and millions of dollars in delays and this and that, and we're going to recoup every last cent. It also seems to me that in a way it's kind of trying to establish a blueprint. I don't really think they actually think they can win, but I think they are trying to further intimidate water protectors, indigenous folk, and people who want to demonstrate against these pipelines. What do you think?
Yeah, if this does go through, it's a frightening precedent being set where corporations seemingly will have unfettered power to do whatever they want in terms of violating constitutional rights, human rights. So I'm going to follow it closely. We were talking earlier about how Mark Kosowitz is behind this lawsuit, who is also Trump's personal lawyer. So that shows that he may still, while he might have given up, whatever percentage of that company that he owns, still hold an interest without having a direct investment. So I'm going to follow that closely for sure.
You know what I think is interesting, and I want your take since you fought for the country. All I've been hearing for the last year is democracy is under attack. Russia and all these things. And I have the fortune or misfortune of going out and seeing that really happening. So to me, Standing Rock is when democracy is under attack. When you have the government working with a Blackwater type group to basically rough up demonstrators against the big oil project. Flint democracy has left the building. There's emergency managers basically deciding for the citizens, but they weren't elected. I mean, I could go through the list, but I'm assuming you didn't fight for the country knowing this was the reality.
Absolutely not. When I joined the Marine Corps, I was 18 years old, a head full of things that a lot of 18-year-old dudes from Southern California do have. And it wasn't until I actually deployed to Fallujah in 2005 that a lot of these realizations really hit me. For one, being an African-American male or, brown skin, being in Fallujah, seeing that the people outside of uniform that we were more or less fighting against, they looked a whole lot more like me than some of the people that I was serving with side by side. Started there, turned into the whole human empathy awareness. And I definitely didn't sign up with as clear of an understanding of the role that United States plays in the war in terms of imperial empire, essentially.
I want to read one part of this lawsuit because to me, I haven't read through the whole thing yet, but to me this was just batshit crazy. Get your thoughts. So this is coming from Energy Transfer Partners. Greenpeace's most senior leaders have admitted that their goal is not to present accurate facts, but to, quote, emotionalize issues and thereby, quote, pressure their donor audiences into parting with their money. When caught red-handed spreading patently false misinformation, Greenpeace has conceded that to, quote, emotionalize targeted donors and other victims, it uses what it calls internally, quote, alarmist, Armageddonist factoids. Now, I think none of that's true, but what's really interesting to me is it seems like, the corporate media has been very focused on fake news and Donald Trump's alternative reality, which is very true. But this company, which, again, has been working in concert with our government, is just making up an alternative reality, but the media doesn't call this out. They just kind of report that there's a lawsuit and then, hands up, moved on. They're basically saying that Greenpeace, through the facts that they present about climate change, are creating Armageddonist fiction.
Yeah. What is that not, the definition of fascism, when you have the government in control of corporate law, of industry, and of all of the information that surrounds what is going down? I'm not quite sure the case that ETP will have when it comes to them actually being in court and presenting evidence. But, as far as I'm concerned, I would like to see ETP shut down as an organization entirely for what they've done, what they've supported, what they've funded so far. And the same for Tiger Swan. We saw the Intercept article. We've actually been given information more than what was included in those Intercept articles. And the information that was being passed from Tiger Swan to these corporations, to the Defense Intelligence Agency, to all these other law enforcement agencies, the correlation between the veterans there, the indigenous people there, the water protectors who had gathered there, and jihadi terrorists was absolutely laughable. But if we're talking about law and what can be done through law, well, you have the Homeland Security Act, you have the National Defense Act, you have the Patriot Act, which would essentially allow, if all of a sudden, we're being called terrorists, or they are saying that we have links to terrorist organizations, we have no right to any constitutional law, to any due process. So it kind of makes sense, especially with the pipeline that stands to make trillions of dollars over the next 15 years.